A white stretch limousine idled outside the school, Yale blue robes shifting beside it.
Who on earth sends a limousine to a school like this?
But 12 years earlier, Margaret's office held a different kind of weight. The referral said, Patrick Carter, age 12. Older brother shot dead 3 weeks ago. He hasn't spoken a word since. Patrick walked in, eyes on the floor, and sat in the child-height chair without a sound.
You don't have to talk, Patrick. We can just sit here. I'll be here every Wednesday at 2.
The clock ticked past 2 o'clock. 50 minutes of silence began. Patrick stared at the wall, but his breathing slowed. He didn't run. When the bell rang, he stood, glanced at her once, and gave a tiny nod before leaving. Margaret didn't know it then, but that silent Wednesday would echo through 12 years. The next Wednesday, and the Wednesday after that, the same ritual continued. 4 weeks in, Patrick's mother came to the school, her eyes raw with grief. She sat across from Margaret and whispered, "He won't talk, not even to me."
You are wasting your time with this boy. If he won't speak, we need to force accountability.
He's not broken. James, he's grieving. Pushing him now would break him for good.
For the next session, she placed a box of crayons and paper on the low table without a word. Patrick stared at the supplies, then slowly picked up a blue crayon and drew a single, shaky line. Week 6. For the first time since his brother's death, he lifted his chin and met Margaret's gaze.
There you are.
It lasted only a second, but it was enough to keep her going. The seasons changed. A year of silent Wednesdays had carved a small, steady groove into Margaret's routine. On the anniversary of his brother's death, Patrick picked up a black crayon and began to draw with purpose. He drew a small grave, and underneath, in wobbly letters, he wrote the word brother. Margaret took the paper. Her hand trembled as she read that single, enormous word.
He found a way to say it.
But the next Wednesday, the breakthrough collapsed. Patrick refused to even glance at her. He hunched in his chair, shoulders a fortress, and stared at the floor for 50 minutes. Margaret didn't break the quiet. She stayed, breathing evenly, a silent anchor in his storm. After he left, she opened her drawer and placed his drawing inside, carefully, next to the referral. She would be here next Wednesday, and every Wednesday after. No matter how long the silence lasted, the Wednesdays stacked into years. Outside, seasons cycled, but inside, the quiet held. Patrick grew taller, his shoulders broadening, but words never came. His eyes spoke a language only Margaret could read. One afternoon, he slid a folded scrap of paper across the low table, without meeting her eyes. She unfolded it later. 2 words in his careful handwriting. "Thank you."
He gave me a gift. No sound, but it's enough.
8th grade graduation arrived on a humid June morning. The school auditorium buzzed with parents and proud noise. Patrick walked the stage as his name was called, moving deliberately, his cap low. For a single, suspended moment, he stopped mid-stride and found Margaret in the crowd. He dipped his chin once, a nod that said everything, and she answered with her own. Then he walked off the stage and into a world she couldn't follow. The silence was now a chasm she might never cross. 3 years later, news of a shooting at a high school across town reached Margaret's living room. She called the school, her voice tight. Patrick Carter, they said, had transferred. No forwarding address.
He could have been there. He could be gone and I'd never know.
She spent the night scrolling through names of victims, each one a held breath. By dawn, no name matched, but the relief curdled into guilt. What if next time I am not so lucky?
I failed him. 5 years of silence, and I let him walk away with nothing.
She pulled Patrick's old file from her drawer. The drawing of the grave, the word brother still fresh. She drove to the school where the shooting happened, stood by the makeshift memorial of flowers and candles.
He's not here. But he could have been. He could be next.
That night, alone in her office, the clock ticked to 2. She stared at the empty chair and wept. 5 years after Patrick disappeared, the district awarded Margaret for 20 years of service.
You've given more than advice. you've given presents, and that's rarer than any degree.
Sometimes the biggest victories are the ones we never hear about. The students who sit in silence, who never speak, but who carry something we planted.
After the ceremony, a former student stopped her in the hallway. The young woman said, "Mrs. Thompson, I saw Patrick Carter at Tri-C. He was in the library, studying."
He's alive. He's studying. Maybe I didn't fail him after all.
She called the community college, but privacy laws blocked every path. Undeterred, she left a message with the library desk. "If Patrick Carter comes in, please tell him Mrs. Thompson is thinking of him."
It's enough just to know he's out there.
That night, for the first time in months, she slept without the weight of guilt pressing on her chest. The flyer read, "Voices of loss. Lost someone to violence? You don't have to speak. We'll just sit." On the first Wednesday, 6 students trickled into the classroom, their faces tight with the same weight Patrick once carried.
You don't have to talk. I'll be here every Wednesday at 2. We'll sit together. That's enough.
For weeks, the room stayed silent. Teenagers stared at walls, at hands, at anything but each other. Then one girl, Maya, broke. She whispered about her cousin's shot on a porch, and the room held its breath. Margaret didn't offer advice. She just listened, the way she'd learned that presence is a balm.
This is why I stayed. Even one voice breaking silence makes all the difference.
Over months, the group grew. Students started writing notes, drawing, even speaking aloud. But late at night, in the quiet of her own head, Margaret still searched for one name. She didn't know if he'd ever reach back, but she'd learned to trust the seeds she planted in the dark. One morning, Margaret found a cream-colored envelope in her school mailbox. The return name, Patrick Carter. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. Inside, a high school graduation announcement. Tucked inside, a small handwritten note. "Mrs. Thompson, I am talking now. Thank you for not giving up on me." She ran her finger over the ink, then reached for the phone. The number printed on the card rang to a disconnect tone. She called the high school, but he'd already graduated. No new address, just a ghost of a voice on paper.
He finally spoke, and now I can't answer him back.
She pressed the card to her chest and let the tears come, a flood of relief and grief intertwined. She opened her desk drawer and placed the note next to his old drawing of the grave, the word brother still visible.
Maybe this is goodbye, but it's the goodbye I needed.
She didn't know where he was headed, but she knew he had found his voice. For now, that was enough. It was 2025. Margaret's 50th birthday passed quietly, and the weight of 30 years of other people's trauma pressed down. Cleaning out a drawer for the first time in years, she found a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. She unfolded it. The crayon drawing of a grave, the single word beneath, "Brother."
Patrick, I almost forgot.
She sat heavily at her desk, pulled a blank sheet, and began to write her letter of retirement.
Maybe it's time to let someone else carry the burden.
But her pen stopped. She stared at the drawing, at the small, defiant words scrawled by a silent 12-year-old.
Number, not yet. I am not done.
She tore the letter into pieces and walked to Principal Hollis's office.
James, I need one more year.
Back in her office, she taped Patrick's drawing to the wall beside her desk. The clock read 2. She had a reason to stay. In the staff lounge, Margaret poured her coffee as 2 teachers gossiped over a newspaper. "Did you see? A kid from our school just graduated Yale Law, top of his class."
Yale, from this neighborhood. Could it be?
She didn't ask for the name. After 10 years of hoping and losing, she'd learned not to chase ghosts. Later, a television in the corner showed graduation footage. Blue robes, a sea of caps. A young man stood at a podium, but before Margaret could see his face, she switched it off.
Don't. It's not him. It's never him.
That evening, she sat in her office, staring at Patrick's drawing taped to the wall.
If it was you, I'd know. I'd feel it.
She turned off the lamp. The clock glowed nearly 2 a.m. Hope was a dangerous thing, and she wouldn't feed it. The next morning, in the empty cafeteria, a discarded newspaper on a table caught Margaret's eye. The headline read, Local grad to deliver Yale Law commencement speech. Below it, a photo of a young black man in a cap and gown. The caption read, Patrick Carter, age 24.
It's really him.
She read the article with trembling hands. I credit a middle school counselor who never gave up on me. She sat with me in silence for 5 years.
That's me. He remembers. That's my boy.
Pressed the paper to her chest and wept. Then, still crying, she ran to her office. In her office, she sank into her chair, the drawing of the grave still taped to the wall. She reread the article, as if it were a miracle, fragile enough to vanish.
But there's no way to reach him. No number, nothing.
She opened her laptop and typed Yale Law Commencement 2026 into the search bar. The schedule filled the screen. Patrick Carter, student speaker. The ceremony was in 2 days.
2 days. It might as well be forever.
She pulled out a sheet of stationery. Dear Patrick, I saw the article. I am so proud. I am so proud. I am still at the same school, same office. If you ever want to talk or just sit, I'll be here. Wednesday at 2, like always.
Please let this letter find its way to him.
She showed the article to Principal Hollis. He read it slowly, then looked at her over his glasses.
Margaret, if he wants to find you, he will. You've done your part.
I know. But what if he doesn't?
That night, she dreamed of a grand auditorium. Patrick stood at a podium, older. His lips moved silently. She strained to hear, and then she caught the shape of a single word. Wednesday. The next morning, Margaret sat at her desk, the letter to Patrick still unsent, her gaze drifting to the clock. 1:56 p.m. She heard the heavy thud of car doors outside, then a ripple of murmuring in the hallway. She walked to the window and froze. A white-stretched limousine idled on the driveway, a cluster of figures in Yale blue robes beside it.
It's the limo. From my dream.
Her breath caught as she saw the Yale banner unfurled, the deep blue velvety in the June sun.
They're here. From me?
A custodian knocked on her doorframe. Mrs. Thompson, there's people from Yale here to see you.
I'll be right there.
She looked down at her blazer, her trembling hands. 12 years of silence, and now this. She walked down the hallway toward the front door, where light and blue robes waited. Margaret pushed the front door open. A woman in full Yale regalia, her face kind, stepped forward.
You must be Margaret Thompson. I am Professor Catherine Webb. Patrick Carter is giving the student commencement speech this afternoon. He titled it, The Woman Who Saturday with My Silence. He named you. We're here to bring you to New Haven. You have 5 hours. There's a plane waiting. I have work. I can't just leave. We've spoken to your principal. He's covering everything. Please, come. This is real. He's really done it.
She turned and saw Principal Hollis nodding from the hallway, a rare smile on his face.
Let me get my jacket.
Minutes later, she slipped into the back of the white limousine, the Yale blue robes settling in around her, and the car pulled away toward the airport. In the back of the limo, Margaret stared at the newspaper photo of Patrick as the Cleveland skyline fell away.
He told us you never pushed. You just waited for a child grieving the way he was, that patience was a lifeline. I didn't do anything special. I just sat with him. I didn't know if it was helping.
They transferred to a private jet. In the cabin, Catherine continued.
When he started speaking in college, he said it was because he knew someone had believed he had something worth saying. He said, you taught him that presence is the first language of healing. You stayed. That was everything. Did I ever tell him I believed in him? Did he know?
Hours later, the limousine rolled past the Gothic spires of Yale. When they pulled up to the towering wooden doors of Woolsey Hall, Margaret's hands trembled as she stepped out. An usher led Margaret to a front row seat, right in the center, where she felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on the dais. Patrick Carter stepped to the podium, tall, poised, a man she barely recognized.
12 years ago, I stopped speaking. My older brother had been shot, and silence became the only language I knew. But every Wednesday at 2 p.m., a woman named Mrs. Thompson sat with me. She never asked me to speak. She just stayed. She gave me the gift of her presence, and that gift taught me that words aren't the only way to be heard. Some of you know her as Mrs. Margaret Thompson. I know her as the woman who saved my life.
A collective gasp swept through Woolsey Hall. Heads turned, searching for her. Margaret gripped the armrests. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She didn't bother to wipe them. She couldn't move. On stage, Patrick paused. His voice thickened, but he pressed on, telling the story of a silent boy and a woman who refused to give up.
He remembers everything. All those Wednesdays. He actually remembers.
Patrick's voice rose, then broke, and the hall erupted before he could finish.
Thank you for being the silence I needed.
The audience surged to their feet, a standing ovation that shook the ancient hall. But instead of returning to the dais, Patrick stepped off the stage and began walking down the center aisle. Faculty on the stage exchanged glances. Graduates shifted. The spotlight stayed on him. Margaret saw him coming through a blur of tears. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. He reached her row and gestured to the empty chair beside her, the one she'd noticed earlier, as if it had been waiting. He sat. The ceremony continued, but a ripple of awe spread through the hall. Every eye was on them.
He came all this way. He's really here.
Neither spoke. They just sat, side by side, as the Chancellor's voice echoed faintly somewhere above. In the hush between speeches, Patrick turned. From his gown, he pulled a leather case, his Yale Law diploma. He placed it gently in Margaret's trembling hands, as if returning something she'd given him long ago.
Wednesday.
Margaret broke. A sob she'd held for 12 years escaped, and she clutched the diploma to her heart. He took her hand, and they held on as the ceremony moved around them, a silent anchor in her storm. Cameras flashed, capturing a moment that would resonate far beyond that hall. She couldn't stop crying. The word echoed. Wednesday, the day that had become their sacred ground. He didn't let go. For the rest of the ceremony, he sat with her, just as she had once sat with him. When the benediction ended and the crowd rose, she was still holding his diploma, now damp with her tears. He finally released her hand, and they shared a look that spoke volumes. Without a single word, they found a quiet bench under a sprawling oak, the noise of the reception a distant hum.
I am sorry it took 12 years to say this out loud. In college, a debate class forced me to open my mouth. The first words I spoke were the hardest thing I've ever done. But every time I wanted to stop, I thought of your office, the clock at 2, and I kept going.
You didn't owe me anything, Patrick. But this is everything I ever needed to hear.
I am clerking for a federal judge in Cleveland. I'll be back in August.
She tried to return the diploma, but he gently closed her fingers around it.
Keep it. It's yours more than mine. I'll get a copy.
They rose and held each other, a hug that poured 12 years of silence into a single embrace. When they stepped back, the campus bells began to toll, marking a new hour. The morning after Margaret returned, her office phone rang off the hook with reporters wanting a statement.
It's not about me. It's about a boy who found his voice. That's the real story.
Principal Hollis appeared in her doorway, holding a newspaper with her photo on the front.
You deserve every bit of this, Margaret. I am just glad the world finally gets to see it.
After he left, she placed a framed photo of her and Patrick at graduation on her desk, right next to the old drawing. Beside it, she opened her calendar. August had a circle around the 15th with the words Patrick Lunch in bold. That afternoon, the Voices of Loss support group crowded her office, eyes wide at the photo. She told them the story of a silent boy and Wednesdays, and one by one, they started asking questions about hope.
If you just stay, if you just keep showing up, you'd be amazed what silence can grow into.
After they left, she looked at the photo one more time, then at the clock. It was nearly 2, her favorite time of day. August 15th came. The school was empty, but Margaret's office light was on. At 2 o'clock sharp, A knock on the open door frame.
Happy Wednesday, Mrs. Thompson.
He wore a crisp suit now, but the same gentle eyes. He set 2 takeout bags on her desk, the smell of deli sandwiches filling the room.
I've been looking forward to this all week. My judge asked why I block off Wednesdays at 2.
And what did you tell him?
I said, it's a standing appointment with the woman who taught me how to speak. He didn't ask again.
They ate in the easy rhythm of old friends. Margaret shared about the new teens in Voices of Loss, how one boy hadn't spoken for weeks.
I just sit with him, like I sat with you. Some things don't change.
You are still doing the work that matters most. Presence, patience, that's rarer than any courtroom argument.
At 2:50, he stood and said, "Same time next week?" She nodded, and the Wednesday tradition, born in silence, lived on. A year had passed. The viral articles had yellowed, but the framed photo on Margaret's desk caught the afternoon light. She lifted a watering can and poured a thin stream over the succulent that had been a gift from Patrick. The office was quiet. No ringing phones, no urgent knocks, just the distant laughter of summer school children. The wall clock ticked toward 2, and as it struck, she instinctively looked toward the door.
He's in DC this week, but old habits don't die.
No knock came. She smiled anyway, a small private expression of gratitude. She turned back to her notes. Across the room, the child-height chair sat empty, bathed in a shaft of golden light. It had never been filled, but it had never been empty either. It held the echo of a silent boy who had found his voice. Sometimes the most important words are never spoken. They are felt in the staying, in the showing up, in the simple act of presence. She let the warmth of the afternoon settle over her, knowing that somewhere, a young man had blocked off his Wednesdays at 2.